Yes. Now, when I tell that, I'll be starting the technologies like, Java or Python, or if, C programming language also, or if not C Sharp or C++, or, maybe if I just start with the software testing part, or, if I do only HTML, CSS and JavaScript, whenever I listed out, as a menu in the hotel, so the highest number of votings will always come for Python. And if I ask anybody, like, you people, I just wanna ask for, I know my own students, so I wanna ask for some newcomer. So Priya Ramesh is here. Hi, Priya.
Hi, sir.
Yes. So why you want to learn Python?
Uh, Compared to Java and C, the Python code will be very easy to understand. It will be very short.
Okay, so because the coding part, the syntax is easier when you compare, see, easy, difficult, it comes only when you compare. Winner, loser, will come into picture only when you compare. The whole, the word depends on that. When you compare something with some other thing, then only you will get which is good and, which is worst. So I agree this point. So I'll mark it here. I'm gonna tell it as Python is easy to learn, and I would say because of its syntax, right? Yeah, so this would be the first point which has been given by Priya, right? So let me ask a few more people who want to learn Python, why they want to learn. And let me ask our batch students, like, whom to ask. Let me ask this question to Sangram. Hi, Sangram.
Yes, sir.
You already
Yes,
studied the Java part. So why you wanna study the Python?
I studied Python, but a little bit lesser. I know that there is a dynamic type language. It's we not
Hmm?
need not to give always. You not need not to all the variables. You need to specify like int, char, the string.
Hmm.
It will take automatically. That's why I think.
Okay, so what Sangram is saying is very simple. So this Python language, if you have searched, so it is called as a dynamically typed language where you need not to decide the data types. I'll come to all those things. What is data types? How the data types that would look like in Python, and how data types that was in Java. So I'll give you the differentiation. So when it comes to here, so he's saying that it's a dynamically typed language. That is the reason I want to learn that. Dynamically, the typed language. Okay, that's great. That at least, before joining to a course or before learning a technology, you know why you want to study that. So we have a few interesting students here, quite brilliant students whom I think. So Padmanabh,
Yes, sir.
why you want to learn Python?
Sir, because Python has a huge scope and when compared to Java,
It's echoing. I didn't get it.
sir, now, sir.
Yeah, fine.
Because it has huge scope, sir, for developing the application.
Okay. Why instead of
So
all the other languages?
it's better to,
Ah,
sir, it's a quite simpler language, sir, to learn.
simpler language. You're coming back to the first
And
point.
structure is also less compared to other languages.
Okay, okay, great, great, great. Yeah. So one last chance, I would go with yes, Bhavana is here. Hi, Bhavana. I want my students to be active in my class. It would be an interactive session. Bhavana, you can unmute yourself and you can speak. Do not hesitate. Okay, are you here? Okay. So Janya is speaking. Hello.
Hello. So,
Yes.
so it has a very huge amount of additional open source libraries.
Okay, that's a great answer. So because of it is having its open source in nature, it's open source in nature, and because of its library file, right? Okay, so that I can add it here as a point. Good one. Okay, so I think everyone I know in the academics or somewhere through the internet, you would have studied this particular language where this Python language so got boomed like anything, because of some of the rumors. People would say it is very easy. People would say the library files are there. It is dynamically typed language. But have you really have you done your research on that? Really, is that Python is so easy compared to the other language? Or really the Python having so much of value in the market? So these are the things you want to understand. So I would say any fresher, or if not fresher, if you're an experienced guy also, if you want to choose a programming language, if you want to choose a programming language, then you should be following 3 points. If the 3 points are satisfied, then only you have to choose that particular language, because whenever you are learning a programming language, three things you are going to invest: your time, energy, and money. If you're watching YouTube videos also, the internet won't come for free, right? Somehow you are investing money also, your valuable time. So in that time, you could have studied some other technology, or you could have invested yourself in some other place. You are investing your time, energy, and money. That means you have to check whether this language is really worthful or not. So how to check that? So I would say always the first option you should be checking for ranking of the programming language. Why you have to check the ranking? If you are going to join an engineering college itself, you are going to check the rank of the college. In Karnataka, what is the rank of the college? In all over India, what is the rank of the college? So if a college having a good ranking means, that means the level of education and the placement, so it will be good in that college. That's how people will treat. So when it comes to programming language also, so ranking of the programming language is very, very important. Apart from that, second thing happens to be demand in the IT industry. Demand in the IT industry. That is very, very important. Why the demand is very, very important? Because if you don't have a demand, then why you should learn that? I would say I'll show you the ranking, I'll show you certain websites and some data for this. But if demand is not there 100%, if you study that also, it would be really waste. And finally, this is for freshers. As a fresher, you have to observe in the market that really is the placement opportunities are there or not. You have to check for the placements are happening with respect to the Python profile or not, like a developer role, the Python full stack developer role, or maybe on the data science part, on the ML part. What is the ratio, or what is the average salary that the people are getting? So these are the things which you should check over the internet before starting to learn a programming language. Because once you start learning that language, starting from the identifiers, still you reach the framework and create a project, you will be completely involved in that, like learning the syntax of the language, learning all the rules and regulations of the language, going through the documentation and so on. The point is, first only if you have checked all these things, then whatever you are telling it here, easy to learn and dynamically type language, open source, then you have to check this one. First this, which is there in the right hand side, then you come to the left hand side, right? So on this basis, now let me go to the internet. And after going to the internet, I think Sangram has already done his research and is telling the right one. So let me share you the screen. And after sharing the screen, I think the screen is visible now. Yes, it is. So you can see he is telling that TIOB index. Yes, it is the one which is going to give the ranking for the programming languages. So let me click on that. Is the screen is visible? Yes, no? Type S in the chat box if.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll go to this particular website. You can also Google it later after the class. So I'll come to this. So this is what we are going to call it as TAOB index, the website who do the research on the, so many things, and they'll come up with the surveys. Based on the survey, they are going to give the ranking for the programming languages. In that case, every month this ranking will be changing, and every year ranking will be displayed here. And if you see, as of now, we are in the September month, almost at the end of the 2021. So this year and last year September, both the resultant would be given. And it is saying that the headline happens to be this: Python is, about to take over the top position. It means if you look into the survey report properly, they have given the ranking. Can you see this? September 2021. So the C programming language, it is in the first place. So in that way, C programming language is the mother of all the other programming languages which is present in the market today. Somehow one or the other feature would be directly taken from the C, or indirectly taken from the C language. That's how the C language has grown in itself in the the recent years. In the first place, why C language is there? Because even today, majority of the medical related softwares and applications, especially the IoT part and all, so even today they are developing using the C. Why? Because C is popular for its speed. When it comes to Java or Python, the speed of execution is a bit slower. When it comes to C, the speed of execution is faster, because there is no two-way of execution. There is one way of execution: direct compilation and execution. I'll come back to that. But before that, if you see the rating properly, so in the last year, so Java was in the second place. And the same way in the last year also, I have taken the Python session, and that time I would have told by next year, you just check it out. So see the same website. So Python would be either in the first place or it would be in the second place. And as really we expected, so Python is present in the second place today. And last year it was in the third place, and it has overtaken not a simple language, a huge giant in the market called as Java. And last year Java was in the second place, and when people are shifting themselves from the Java to Python, so over a period of time, so that is the reason Python got popularity, and today it is in the second place. And many of them are predicting that maybe by next year Python would be in the first place with respect to the ranking. And ranking would be given on the various surveys, like how many youths are preferring it, how companies are preferring it, and the number of projects that has been newly created, the technologies which are used. So based on all these things, the languages are ranked. And if you look at it carefully, so you have C++ also, you have Visual Basic also, and JavaScript also having the huge demand in the market, in the front-end technologies. And you have a PHP, you have SQL, and you have Ruby, Go language, everything is there. But the point is that I'll just go down. Okay, so ML, now it came to the 50th position. Okay, in few days, it will come up. That's fine. Just I want to say, okay, Scala is here, which is again created by the James Gosling, the creator of Java. Okay, if you want to study a language, immediately as a fresher, and if you want to get placed, so will you study a language which is somewhere present in the 35th rank or 36th rank? No, right? So which is in demand now, which is required for the market, that is what everyone wants to learn, and immediately they want themselves to be deployed in the projects, and they want to start working and to make the money, right? And this is with respect to the ranking of the language. In that way, I'll come back here just to the ranking page, and I would say ranking wise, yes, there is absolutely no problem. And when it comes to the demand in the IT sector, I want to show something here which is pretty interesting. Can you see this graph? over a period of time how the languages are grown up. And this graph is purely based on the number of inquiries or number of questions or number of communities that are involved in using these languages. And if you look at in that way, so Java is the one language which has been in the top from the beginning. It was introduced in around 1995. So till then, till 2021, if you look at it, it's almost in the top. So somewhere it went down, and again, it keep on be in the moderate mode, and again, going down. And today's strategy, if you see day by day, it's little bit it's going down. But if you look at it in the terms of Python is this black color one. If you observe, this nowhere in the race. If you observe, where is Java and where is Python? Can you see the huge difference when they both started? That fellow Java came like a king, and he lived like a king, and today also is living like a king. But Python came into market like nothing, and in very few years, if you observe, can you see this black mark with respect to Python? So now it has been grown, and now today it has been reached. It is nearby Java. And in very few years, the number of communities and the projects and the developer zone, that would be increased in such a way that it will overtake all the other language, and it will it will stand in first place. The point is that what made a Python language to grow this much? You ask your seniors in the college, and I am the best example for that. When we were studying engineering, so we were not having the Python in the curriculum. But today, you people are having the Python in the curriculum. The language that we were having happens to be only C, C++, and followed by Java. By the time we reach Java, we would have come out of the college. But today, that is not the scenario. You have the IoT part, and you have a few elective subjects. You have big data there, you have machine learning there, as elective subjects. But Python, preferably, it is there in the curriculum. Do you agree with my point? Have you people studied in the curriculum the Python? Yes, no, just put a message in the chat. Yes. So all that you need to understand, or as a day one today, what I'll be explaining is, don't you think if you look at this graph carefully, something has been changed drastically, so that the language which has started from nowhere, now it is almost topping the list. What happened in the IT industry, or what happened in the entire world, that what made Python to gain so much of popularity, is what we should be knowing first. Then we'll get some interest to learn that language. And when we have a very good interest, and when we are passionate about something, obviously we will involve ourselves, and the involvement will take us to the next level. Today all I need to speak about, what is this Python, and who is the inventor of this, and a bit history on this for a couple of minutes. And after that, I'll take you to the as you said, the syntax is very easy, and the editor part, which editor you have to take, all these things is what we are going to cover up in today's class. But before going to that, after seeing this ranking, somehow you people got to know that, oh, programming languages are having ranking, and we should see that before going to study that, right? And I have few more documents which I want to show to you. Have you heard about Stack Overflow? Have you people heard about it?
Yes, sir.
What is Stack Overflow? Can anybody tell me who knows about it?
Sir, it's an open source programming catalog.
Okay, what it will do?
Means the people will share the code, sir.
Yeah, what type of code? Like, why they will have to share their code there?
Because of to solve the, I mean, if you don't know any questions, or if you don't know how to solve that, they will put on Stack Overflow.
Exactly.
And also to
what it means is all the developers across the world, they are working in a different companies, and they are working in a different geographical location. If one of the developers who is working one of the projects, say suppose he don't know something, is repetitively is getting the errors, then he is going to post it in the internet. I have stuck up here, can someone help me, something like that. So those questions will be picked up and posted here. And what the top developers who are working in the company, they would have already come across this error in their project prior to that. So they'll be giving the solution for that, the possible solution, not the exact solution. The possible solution is what given, so that this junior developer who is working somewhere in a different location somehow is getting the possible solution for that. So it means all the developers across the globe, they are helping each other. There is some trolls on this also, where if there is no Stack Overflow, there is no IT industries at all. For every problem, there is one solution. Go check it in the Stack Overflow, something like that. So these people also, Stack Overflow people also, they are gonna, do some surveys, and based on the surveys, they have came up with some of the results here, and I want to show it to you people. So the most popular technologies, you have to check it as Stack Overflow survey, then you'll be getting this one. The most popular technologies, if you scroll it down, so if I come down, you can see it here. So when you ask for most popular, like the people likes, and the CEOs of the companies preferred, or the top project managers are going to suggest, or when you ask for a college students, you want to study which language, means they're going to vote for that, the based on this kind of surveys. So JavaScript plays in a in the first rank because of its diversities, and the as many features are being added day by day. When it comes to front-end technologies, JavaScript has been widely used in almost all the projects nowadays. So JavaScript placed in a first place. And next to that itself, you have a HTML, CSS. And that is the reason I'm showing all these things. When you stick on to Java, it's only not Java. If you stick on to SQL, it's not only the SQL. When it comes to a full stack development as a fresher or as a engineering graduate, so you have to learn all these things, the languages which is required for the front end, and language which is required for a database, and the middleware language, everything. So if you look at it in this way, so JavaScript you have to study, it's indicating. So now you have to change your mind in the sense, if you have think that, oh, only Python I will study, only Java I will study, and I will keep quiet. No. Or if you have already studied HTML, CSS, and if you're quiet, no, this is the time to take up the JavaScript, and you have to start working on that, right? And the same way you have HTML, CSS, very basics for the front-end technologies. You should be knowing that, and everyone should be done. And after that, you have a Python. If you look at it carefully, first two languages comes under the category of front-end technologies. And next you have a database part, SQL, right? Vendors may be different, but the query language that you have to study, that is what it is showing. And you have a Python here, and next to that you have a Java, and later Node.js and TypeScript, C#, and somewhere C. Ranking wise, popularity wise, you can see the difference. Ranking is given on a few terminologies, and the popularity is given on different thing, right? So this is the one website which you can check it out. And if it is most popular, and if it is having the ranking, yes, you will be getting a job opportunity as a fresher. For that, I don't want to show the job portals here, it would look funny. You can check it in the Naukri, you can check it in the monster.com or jobshane.com. Just go there and search it, the job opportunities for the Python developers, and that too for zero experience as a fresher. So you can compare it, like for Java, how many job roles are there, and what could be the average salary, and for Python, how many job roles are there, and what could be the average salary on that. And comparatively, nowadays for Python, the number of job positions are less, but the package would be higher. And Java is like evergreen, and always the number of position will be there, but the package also would be very moderate. I would not say very low or too high, so it would be moderate. And this is one of the another example for which you can go and search it out. And one more thing I want to show it here, so which happens to be the demanding language. If you just check it as the most in-demanding language that are present here in this today's scenario, if you check it out. So I got this one while I was doing some checking on the internet. 11 most in-demanding programming languages in 2021. Which are those? If you check it out, so I also got shocked there, and I have a image thing here like a pie chart, so which has been divided into languages rank wise. Again, here also JavaScript plays a first role, and followed by the Python, and followed by HTML, followed by CSS, and then Java and SQL, NoSQL, and C#, REST, Perl, and Go. Don't you think already many of them have studied the Java, and now we are going to study with respect to the Python, and HTML, CSS also will be given for you. And as the days progress, once HTML, CSS is done, so you will be also studying the JavaScript on your own, and Java and Python. If you have the knowledge on both the things properly, you can easily switch between the projects. That is the main intention here. Clear with this? So these are the few surveys which I want to show to you people. So let me come back here. So if in case if I come back, so demand in the IT sectors is there because of its popularity. Otherwise, people are not going to check that. So let me consider it here. Let me click it up, and I will tick the mark. And placement, as I said, I don't want to show the placement portals here, but you go on your own and check it there in the Naukri or Indeed, or few are there, just go and check it there. 100% the placement opportunity would be there for freshers on this particular Python language. Right now, before going for the next one, where the most important thing happens to be today I thought of speaking with respect to these kind of things before starting with the programming, because what the people will think is, when it is a programming class, from the day one itself, the coding should start. That anyways we'll be doing it, so we are not gonna miss that. But once we step into that, so these are the things we will never get it back. And the session will be expiring now. So what you should be doing is, I'll end the session forcefully, so rejoin the session immediately, right? Yeah, so I will end it, so please rejoin the session immediately using the same link. Yes, do respond in the chat. Later you can exit and rejoin. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, am I audible now? Is the screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, do type it as yes once, everyone. Let me see. Are you people really here? Again and again, I'm telling, programming coding part every day, it will be there, and I'm gonna start that. and I'll be telling each and everything in detail, including the basic and the advanced one. But as a day one, I would want to speak on how this language has been invented, and what made this language to come across from somewhere in the lower ranking to the top second position today. So before that, I have created a folder for your batch. Like, let me click here. Yeah, maybe in the music folder, interesting mind one, and Python. So I have a day one. So there are so many things are there which I would certainly come back. So before that, I'll tell you the Python course content also. What are the things which I'm gonna cover it up for you. And before that, let me go to this history. And when I go to the history, I think let me click on the first one, and it will be get opened. Yeah. Almost after a year, I am again telling the history of the language. Screen is visible, right, for everyone? Yes, I'll keep it in the normal mode itself. It is not zoom it. So we'll get back to the 1980s for few minutes. Have you people watched a movie called as Magadira in Telugu? So in that movie, they will tell for 10 to 15 minutes, we'll go back some 400 years back. So we'll not go that much year back. We'll just go some 30 years, 30 to 35 years back. We'll go back. So 1980s, and this is the country which we are gonna call it as Netherlands. Have you heard about this, Netherlands? So in the Netherlands, our actually the story begins. So in the 1980s in the Netherlands, so there was a company. So before going back, let me show you the Netherlands. Let me click here. Not accepting. Just a second. Yeah. You can see in the 1980s, we were in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands, there was a company. So the company name happens to be CWI. So this happens to be the full form Centrum and Wiskunde and Informatica. So it's a Dutch word, so it's not an English word. So this was a research center, like mathematicians were working and computer scientists, they were also working. So it's more often not like IT company, it's like a research center. So in this research center, they were working upon something, and there we had this person. Who is this fellow, if you ask me? So he's the one creator of Python programming language, and his name happens to be Guido van Rossum. And all these people were from the foreign countries, and their name would be obviously it would be different. And in India, I know if few people have created the programming language, and your name would be there. Say suppose the language founder happens to be Om Prakash, or the language founder happens to be Padmanabh. All these are Indian classical names. But these people are foreign people, and James Gosling, Strostrup, Dennis Ritchie, Guido van Rossum. So these are the names they are having. Any which ways. So this fellow was working on one project. What was the project, if you ask me? The project name happens to be Amoeba Operating System. So when I tell operating system, everyone will be knowing hardly 2 to 3 operating systems which are available. But those days, people are so much involved themselves in creating the operating systems. So one such operating system creations were going on in the CWI, and its names happens to be Amoeba OS, and which has been not launched. That's a sad story. Why it has been not launched is what we need to understand it here. So when they are working on the Amoeba operating system, to create an operating system also, we need a programming languages. And the programming languages which they were using to create this operating system happens to be C programming language. And can you people tell me who is this fellow next to this? I know it's very difficult for you to type, but please type it in the chat box. Let me see. Who made you so confused in the first year of engineering, whether it's a physics cycle or chemistry cycle? And he is the one who found for me first time in the library, college library. Yes. So he's Dennis Ritchie, and I know in a different images you is in a different way, but I felt this is little bit crazy. That is the reason I've taken this one. So Dennis Ritchie is the one who invented C programming language, and when he invented this language is a structured programming language. So what is structured programming language? In some other day when I get time, I'll tell you. But here more often the entire language is based on functions. And when C language came into the market, computer scientists were so happy because prior to C language, the language which was there, the Fortran or basics, so those were quite difficult than C. So that is the reason people were happy. I told in the beginning of the class itself, when you compare, then only you will feel the easy, difficulty, all those things. Now you are comparing Python with Java, so you're telling it as easy. Those days, when people compare Java with C, they felt Java itself is very easy, and when they compare C with its own previous language, so they felt C is easy. And majority of the features has been given by C for the first time into the globe. So all over the world, people started using the C programming language, and later it has overtaken by C++ because C language was not object oriented, and C language have this concept of pointers, and that is very difficult for memory management. And when it comes to object orientation, the memory storage happens in the form of objects. So people have moved themselves from a structured programming language to object oriented programming language. Any which ways, I'll get back to you that. But if you see, the Amoeba operating system was trying to create on C programming language, and C programming language was so difficult for those days people, and using C creating the normal project would look easier, but creating the operating system itself, what quite a difficult task for these people. And that is the reason, and whenever they are going to see the code of the C programming language every day, day in, day out, and they were feeling like this, the developers were feeling like this. Array yaar, why C language, you are so hard in the sense, in the syntax wise, in the memory managing wise, why it is so harsh, why it is so hard. And this was the situation which has been faced by many of you also, and I have also faced this problem in the engineering. The first programming language which has been introduced for every engineering graduate in the India, and especially in the Karnataka, the IPT University, happens to be C programming language. And those who don't know anything about the programming language, first time when they see, uh, I felt this thing why this fellow have not got any other name to name this language. C, it seems. What is this? And majority of my friends, we went to library just to see this book C. We went to library and gave me a book for C, and he has given one big book like ANSI, American Standard Publication book he has given, and that is the last time we have checked it out. And later, so what happened? So, and we were going with the different technologies studies and so on, and finally we took up Java, and now it's going with Python. Any which ways, but this was the situation of those people. And later what happened, somehow this Amoeba project was so difficult for them, they are move on to one more project also. So what is that one more project which they want happens to be the ABC programming language. You can check it in the internet. Even today it's there, and this has been invented in the CWI itself. So ABC programming language, they started off thinking to develop, and the company manager called a few of the researcher, and not called as developers, they are research people, and the task is given. Okay, operating system, you keep it aside, you create a new programming language called as ABC. And when ABC programming language also they started to study at that point of time, so they were working on it. And here one of the group member happens to be Guido van Rossum. And this fellow was, not like a normal guy who's gonna party, every weekend. He was like very interested in, creating the new programming language. And it's around a season where it's like a Christmas season. In the foreign countries, they'll get almost a 15 days of holiday for the Christmas. And everyone were enjoying, like telling jingle bells, and they were in the crazy mode. And one fellow was, sitting in his garage and working day in and day out for his new programming language. Which new programming language? ABC language actually he was working. And when he start working, instead of creating the protocols, the syntax for the ABC language, he has created another language unknowingly. He has created a whole language, but it was not as per the requirements of ABC language. It was a completely new language. And whenever he saw the C programming language, he has, one thought in his mind. What is that one thought is, whatever the programming language that I'm going to create, whether it is ABC language or some XYZ language, syntax of the language should be simple. This is what is there in that fellow's mind, right? So that is the reason he sat in the garage when others are partying it, and he worked. From this, from their life stories, we can learn so many things. See, when others are partying, this fellow is working. So today he's, recognized globally as a creator of Python language, right? He was not working only for the office hours. He was working out of that also, passionately towards something. That is what, required for us also to learn from his, Guido van Rossum life, right? And after that, everything is ready. The programming language is ready. He was supposed to name it. Naming is the biggest, confusing part. Language itself can be created, but naming is quite difficult. He was seeing a TV show, which was coming in the channel called as BBC channel at that time. So the show name happens to be Monty Python Flying Circus, right? And while seeing this TV show, this one word, can you see Python? This one word, caught his eyes. It's something looking, little bit different, and it was nice, and that's what he felt. And next day, immediately, he went to his office and he told, as I working on the ABC language, I have created one more language also. So I want to give the demonstration of that. When he was giving the demonstration, he has taken a variable, stored some values, printed it, and he has taken some simple loop and he has executed it. And people who were sitting in that presentation were completely mesmerized because of the simple syntax, right? So then they asked, what is the name of the language? This fellow told, the language name is Python. Everybody like, Python. Why? Why Python? And many of them have thought like this. Maybe Guido van Rossum is a pet lover, and this fellow love this word Python more because so he may be working like this by putting some 2 3 Python around him, while he's working on the projects, right? But actually not. He kept the name because of the show, Monty Python Flying Circus. But people thought Python means what comes to your mind? Snake, right? That is what everyone felt, and they were asking, Guido van Rossum, really you love Python that much? Do you have, have you done research on the Pythons? Then why you kept the name? By listening to this fellow also got frustrated. When everyone are asking that Python means snake, so this fellow also got frustrated, and he designed the logo in the same way. And he told, okay, Baba, everybody is thinking in the same way. Python means, it's about the snakes that people immediately they will think, not about Monty Python Flying Circus. So he also, designed the logo, and he have created the language name, and he have kept, and he has released into the market. And when it is released into the market, people were not using that much. And as a fact, Python has been released before the Java. Java was not the older one. Python is the older. But it didn't get the popularity because when you see the syntax is very simple, people will feel like, okay, this language would be not having that much of features. That is what people thought. And today the scenario has been changed, and today people looking the Python in this, when almost all the other languages are there. If you ask for a freshers or a experienced fellow who is working in the industry, which language you want to learn and which domain you want to change yourself, means everybody will tell, I want to go into data science, I want to go into machine learning, and for that the basic happens to be Python. I want to learn that, right? So this is a small, story behind the creation of the Python language. And whatever I have told, I have made it as few points for your reference. Let me show you that also. I'll close this one for a time being. I'll close this also. Let me get back to the folder. Let me come back here. And whatever I've told, I've made it as a points. Maybe recently I've heard from few people that in big companies, I don't want to say the name of the company, but in some MNC companies, they are asking the headquarters of the company, and they're asking the CEO of the company, and who knows, when you go for a Python drive, they may ask this also, when the language has been invented and who is the language creator. And these kind of things may happen. So please keep this in the mind. Okay, so whatever I have discussed, I have made it as a point. Python is a general purpose high level programming language, and Python was developed by Guido van Rossum in 1989, but the stable version has been released in 1991. First version is a demo, like a beta version, while working with the National Research Institute at Netherlands. That is only the CWI. But officially, the Python was made available to public in 1991. The official birth date happens to be February 20 and 1991. Anybody who born in February year? Anybody? Yes, no? Padmanabh. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, so you and Python, you can share the birth month together. And what is the date, Padmanabh? Same date. Are you sure? See, what a coincidence, right? Yeah, and I don't want to ask year, let it be. And see, that's why P for Python and P for Padmanabh, it seems. So he also kept the name as per the astrology and numerology, it seems. So just kidding. So Python is recommended as the first programming language for beginners, because people will get interest in programming language and coding when they study Python as their first language. So if not, many of them will divert their career into some other thing. They leave coding, they leave development, they'll go to a different path because the programming language just seems to be difficult for them, right? The name of the Python selected from a TV show, Monty Python Flying Circus, which was there in the BBC channel from 1969 to 74. That time he was seeing those older videos, like how we see Jackie Chan movies or Mr. Bean movies nowadays, like that, or Tom and Jerry. And Guido developed the Python language by taking almost all the programming language preferences. He has taken some of the features from C. He has taken some of the features from C++, and he has also taken the few features from Perl and shell scripting, and as a day's progress. And he has also taken the modular programming, like what is a module, how a modular programming is going to look like. I'll tell everything. Most of the syntax has been derived from C and ABC language. I told you, right? He was working on the ABC language, that language. So the question comes, where we can use Python. We can use everywhere. The most common application areas are, you can use it for desktop application, you can use it for web application. I think some of my students know about this. What is a desktop application? What is a web application? What is a client server application? I think few know. and maybe I'll do a separate video on it, which is kind of a theoretical one, and I'll post it in the maybe in the YouTube, or I will upload it into a drive. I'll give the link. You can watch it for the knowledge. For developing the database applications, for networking, and for developing the games, and for data analysis and application, machine learning, and developing the artificial intelligence application, and for IoT. These many benefits are there with respect to learning the Python programming language. And the note point, internally, the Google and YouTube is using the Python coding, which I think majority of them I would have know that. And NASA also using this language for few applications internally. And top software companies like Google, Microsoft, IBM, Yahoo using Python. It means that learning it worthful about this language. That is what I can say. And coming to the version, the first version has been released in 1994, and this next happens to be in the 2000, and the third version happens to be released in 2008. And now across the world, people are using the Python version 3 up, rather than going for Python version 2. And the versions which has been there in the Python 3 and Python 2 happens to be Python 3.9, the latest one, and you'll be having the 2.7, right? So this is all about the history part. Now let us quickly go on to the editors, what you have to install to the computer, and some chota mota little bit small programs. We'll look into it today, right? So I'll close this one. I'll share with you, don't worry on that part. I will go with respect to the course content now, which majority of them were asking for, and I have made a in detail on this course content, the concept flow. So as today day one, everything is planned, guys, and this is not the first time that I'm doing, so I've done it on multiple times, the Python, so no worries on that part. So introduction for the Python and the history is done. Next would be the features of the Python and the importance, installation of IDLE. Next comes any language fundamental is important. So language fundamental, later identifiers, reserved keywords, data types, in that typecasting, operators, and any language you go, input output statements, command line arguments, flow control, very important, conditional, iteration, and transfer statements. Then introduction to modules. So what is modules? I'll tell. So as you have a concept of packages in Java, so we have a concept of modules in the Python. And when it comes to Python, the most important thing is the advanced data types or the data structures that we are having. Normal data types, in the Java, I only teach you like, primitive data type, non-primitive data type. When it comes to Python, you have the normal data types like, int, float, boolean, all the things, and advanced data types and data structures are there. This is the most important thing that you should know when you are learning a Python programming language as a fresher. Which are those? I would like to call it as list, very important one. So later you would be having a tuple. So these are the in detail things, including the memory structure also. I would explain how the things will work, and followed by the tuple, and same thing as set, and followed by you have dictionary. These are the four important things: list, tuple, set, dictionary. And after the dictionary part, we have very common thing in all the languages, strings. And strings also, I would give the comparison with Java, and I will explain, and I will tell explicitly how the objects and the string objects are going to work inside the memory. So, and few programs of interview programs on the strings, all these things will be discussed. And as you studied the collection module in Java, so here the collection module is bit different. There the collection module is bit different. So, but I'll tell you, so what is collection module? So what are the collection modules that you have to study here? And after that, we have a concept of function. Guys, if somebody asks you what is a Java language, you would say there it's an object-oriented programming language. But when it comes to Python, it is function-based language, and it is also an object-based language. It means Python can be written, Python programs can be written in function-based, how the people will write C programming language, right? In the same way here, function-based programs can be written, and at the same time, object-based programs are also can be written. So what is a function and what are the types of function, and how to create a function, how memory wise it is going to react for us, everything we're going to discuss. And in that, very important happens to be the lambda function, inbuilt functions in that. And as I said, modules are very, very important here, like packages. So how to create it, how to handle it, all those things. And later comes our object orientation, right? So in the object orientation, like what are classes, objects, reference variable, and here the self variable is very important, and followed by the standard packages. That difference also you'll be getting to. What are the modules and what are exactly the packages? That difference also you'll be getting, you'll be knowing here, and followed by the types of variables, exactly what is instance variable, what is static variable, and what are local variables, everything. And methods, followed by variables, setters and getters, inheritance, polymorphism, and these are the pillars of object orientation, and followed by pickling and unpickling. So what do you call it as serialization and deserialization in Java, that also. And a class within a class, inner class, a function within a function, nested function, closures, decorators, generators, iterators. Maybe those who know about this a little bit, so you will get even more extra knowledge. Those who haven't heard about these things, so from a scratch you'll get a complete idea on what are all these things, and how to create it, how to use it, where we will be using it. So all those things will come to know. And as normal, exception handling will be there in the object-oriented language. Abstraction and interface will be there. And very important thing, whenever you are studying object-oriented language, you should know the concept of loggers, logging or loggers. So what is loggers? That also I'll be telling in detail. And garbage collection, why it is required, what we are gonna do from that one. File handling, so handling the file. So if you have studied in Java, it would be very simpler and easier one. When it comes to Python, how I'll be telling that. And followed by debugging and assertion. This many of the people they won't explain. Somehow they will skip it, or if they tell also, they would not tell it in the right way. But this is very, very important. So how you can debug your code, and what is the exact difference between handling the exception and the assertion? That is what you should know. And regular expressions are quite often, whether you studied Java or Python, regular expressions you should be knowing it. And multi-threading, it's very, very important. So if you don't know the basic of multi-threading, what is a thread, what is a synchronization, daemon thread, or why you need the locking system, so it's very important to know as a fresher. Once you start working in the company, what will happen? You'll only focus on the project that you're working upon. But I would suggest, whenever you are fresher, try to learn all the basic things that is required. Once your basics are strong, upon that when you work on the projects, so you will have a beautiful career. If you don't have the proper basics, then if you're working in a project, coming back and checking those basics will become very difficult for you. That's what many of them will do the mistake. And this is up to the majority of the core concepts under the Python. And when it comes to the advanced, so I would say networking is there. So what is networking in Python? So how you can achieve one-way communication, how you can achieve multi-way communication over the networking, how you can achieve two-way and multi-way communication. And what do you mean by web scraping? I'm not given the detailing here, but certainly I would give it in a couple of days. So just randomly I've entered it here. I will give you the in detail of this. And Python database connectivity is very, very important. How you are going to connect your Python program to a database. So here, obviously, we'll be using MySQL. So that is the best combo with the Python. So MySQL also, many of them would have already know. So we'll connect our Python programs with the MySQL database, and we'll fetch the data will do CRUD operation here. And finally, the framework, the Django framework with REST API. Till day one, to what you call it as, till from the identifiers to what I would have told the last one, till networking or PDBC, the amount of time that is going to take for us or you people to involve and to study and to practice, the same amount is required for this one thing: understanding the Django framework properly from the scratch. How you can have the templates over here. You have a MVC for the Java architecture. You have MVT here. So model view template. So understanding the MVT and understanding clearly how to get up to, adjust your front end technology and database, everything together. And when you work upon the Django project, then you will only feel like that, yes, you are a full stack developer. Apart from that, if you study these concepts individually, you will feel like you know a core Python, that's all, a basic Python. Using that, you can become only a normal developer, not a full stack developer. But you really want to become a full stack developer where all the things are combined and projects are created, then you should be working upon the Django project. Is it clear for everyone? Yes. Do respond in the chat box. Otherwise I'll not come to know that it. I feel like I'm just recording the classes for myself. That's what I feel. Yeah, great there. So let me come back here. I think I'll share this with you in the later part. I'll put some of the details here also. I'll share it. If not only till core I will share, maybe the advanced I will share it later. I'll close this one. Let me come back for the next one. Before going for the identifiers and reserved keywords and features of the Python, so I want to speak with respect to the editor that you required. Okay, so first of all, I'll go to my command prompt and I will press enter. So command prompt is getting open. So when the command prompt is there, if you want to know whether in your system Java is there or not, you will tell it as Java. And if you want to know whether Python is there or not, you have to type it as Python. And in my system, it's already there. Maybe in your system, internally or externally, there is no such word, that's how there is no such command. That's how you'll be getting it. I'll press here. So I have the version called as 3.9.2 in my computer. So how to get this is what I'm gonna say now, and I'll show you a few simple programs also today. Before that, as I said, the session will be expiring in a couple of minutes. So I'll cancel it, kindly rejoin it immediately. Anyways, we're gonna wind up somewhere around by 9:30 today, 20 minutes or more. So leave this session and rejoin the session, right? Yes. I think the screen is visible now. Do respond once in the chat box. Let me see. Yes. Yeah. Now do observe. So if you're not getting this in the command prompt, what you should be doing? Let me tell you one more thing. In my classes, I would never ever teach a concept with assumption. Maybe these people know Python. They have already studied Python. They know some of the basics. I will never teach in that assumption. I would teach like as though I am teaching for some non-technical students, like as people are studying the arts or commerce field students. If they come and sit in my class also, they should understand Python language. That's how I will teach. Because of that, maybe sometimes you will feel like why he is telling very simplest things also. Okay, that is because everyone are not same in the class. Few people will grab the things very easier, few people will need some time, and I cannot just simply skip on few things. So if you're feeling like that, you hold on, you'll be getting the right content. And intelligent student where you have already studied, there is no problem for them. If not here, they will study outside also. But the people who felt like when I checked in YouTube or some of the courses, I was not able to understand. That is the reason I came here, and here also the same scenario. So what is the use? That should never happen, right? Yeah. If this is not there, so then do one thing: minimize it and go back to the browser, and you just type it as, maybe I'll go to this, python.org, python.org. And if you enter this one, you'll be getting a website like this. In this, click on the downloads, and from here directly you can click on this, or you can click on downloads. It will be opening like this for you. Can you see the option? 3.9.7 happens to be the latest of the latest version. So 3.9.2 is what I'm having in my laptop. So you can have 3.9.7, and when you click on this, it will be downloaded. And when you are installing it, you will get a checkbox to set the path, because I've already installed. I don't want to redo it, like again uninstalling it, installing it. That you people can do it, but only one suggestion there. You will get a checkbox to set the path in the C drive. It will tell that the source path happens to be so and so place. That checkbox you have to tick. That's all. That is the only one change which you people need to do. Otherwise, it is next, 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 click done, over. If you do that, if it is properly installed, then if you come back and if you check it in the command prompt, you will be getting like this. Is it clear? Maybe for the newcomers. I know when it comes to editors, so many editors are available. We can do it in Anaconda, we can do it in PyCharm, we can do it in Sublime Text, but I'm going with basic IDLE. Everything that you do, start with the basic, then go to the pro level. Never ever start from intermediate also, because when you reach to the higher level, basics matters, right? Yeah. So I'll close this one. I don't want to use this also. But if in case, if you got a IDLE, so then you just type it as IDLE for Python. You'll be having like this, and you tell it as open. Instead of opening in the command prompt, a separate, page itself will be displayed now for IDLE, which gonna look like this. Let me click here. It is getting loaded. Yeah, it will be getting like this. So when it is getting like this, what you should be doing it here and what you should not doing it here, the do and don'ts, everything I'll be telling maybe in the tomorrow's class. But I don't want to go in this one. I want to tell you with the notepad how the things are going to work. So for that, what I'll be doing here is I'll directly come to the programming and I will remove this one. So as of now, nothing is there here. So when nothing is there, I will right click it. After right clicking it, I am going to tell as new, and I will take it as a the text document, and let me press enter. When I press enter, first of all, my intention is to welcome you people. So welcome to the Python classes, or welcome to the Python day 1. This is what I am supposed to print. But if I want to print it in the very famous programming language, which happens to be the Java, so then I should be telling it as system.out.println. This much I have to tell. And that is also not sufficient. You have to tell in double quotes only. That is the rule. And within that, I will tell welcome to the day 1 class, right? And after telling this, I should be putting the semicolon. This is the compulsory, which we have to do it. But is that the right way of coding? Absolutely no, because I have to place this within a main method. And how you are going to write the main method with respect to the Java, you have to tell it as public and static and void and main. After that, you have to tell it as string of args, and you have to put this into the body of the main method. right? And that you're gonna make use of the curly braces. And if the curly braces are open, then absolutely you have to close that. But still, can we run this code? No. Java says that you have to put within the class. And we are gonna consider the class here. And for the class, you have to keep a name. And the first letter of the class should be capital. See how many rules and regulations are there. So I will tell it as demo. And I am gonna open a flower bracket here, curly braces, which will encloses the main method, which will encloses the body of it. And finally, I'm gonna close this one. Do you think to print a statement, so many things are required when it comes to the Java language? Yes or no? And if I want to save this one, let me tell it as file, save as, and I'm gonna save it as demo.java. Extension happens to be Java for the Java language. And I'll be saving this. When I save, what will happen? Internally, one class file will be generated, right? And this class file, if I want to execute it, then I have to tell it as Control L here. Control L, if you type, it will be highlighted, and then tell it as CMD. And when you tell it as CMD, in that particular path, wherever the program is present, that complete path will get opened in the command prompt. You need not to sit and change CD, change directory, go to that, go to that, go to that. No, not required, right? Now directly you will tell it as, compilation part. So for the Java execution, you have two steps. The first steps happens to be, you will tell it as Java C for compilation, and later you are going to tell it as the file name demo.java, right? And whenever I'm going to press enter, so immediately the corresponding class file will be generated. So once the class file is generated from the Java file, so that you can observe it here. Okay, it's opening a different one. Yeah, so you can see now from that the class file is generated. This is the Java file, and this is the class file which has been generated, and the class file I have to execute. So what is the code for that? You have to tell it as Java, and just you have to tell the class file name demo. That's all. Dot class internally it will take. So when I execute this, welcome to the day one class. It's going fine. Yes. Now the same thing I want to achieve using Python, and many of them know this technique. But why I'm telling this one in the day one, because you should feel that yes, really there is so much of syntax involved in the Java language. And when it comes to Python, I think first a girl has told, right, like Priya, I think so. Yes, she has told the syntax is very easy. That we have to feel it, right? So that is the reason. So what I'll be doing here is in the same place, maybe I'll get back to this. Okay, so in the new document, I'm gonna write my Python program for printing. Guido van Rossum says that you wanna print a statement, right? Just tell it as print. Why you want print ln, or why you want system.out.println, or why you want printf comparing to C language. Just tell it as print. And within that, if you want to write up a string here, you can do it within 3 quotes. You can have it within single quote, you can have it within double quote, you can have it within a triple quote. This is also acceptable. So much of features is giving. We would go with a single quote. Who will always type double quote? I don't want it. I will go with a single quote. And inside that, I'm going to tell it as welcome to Python class day 1. And after that, do we want to give the semicolon here? Absolutely not required. So semicolon is not required. Do you want to give so-called as main method? That is also not required. Do you want to put it inside the class? That is also not required. Is that a complete code? 100% yes. Can I execute this code? 100% yes. If I execute, will I get the output? 100% yes. So what we have to do it for this is tell it as file, save as, and whenever you're saving, you need not to save it with any class name. Whichever the name that you want, you can take it here. It's your wish, right? So I'm going to take it as demo1 dot for Python extension happens to be py, and I'll be saving this one, right? When I do this, immediately you can see a Python file got created. Type happens to be a Python file and size happens to be 38 bytes, and just now it is created, right? How to execute this, sir? How to execute this is, unlike Java, you don't have to do two steps here. No compilation is required manually, and no execution is required manually. Only one step is required: direct execution. Internal compilation would be automatically happens here. That is the because of the help of PVM, that I will speak in the upcoming days. So what is Python virtual machine? Why Python execution having only one step? So everything I'm gonna explain in the upcoming days. But if in case, if I come back here, maybe, okay, I will go to the folder, and from here I will tell it as Control L. Just a second, I'll tell it as Control L. Yeah, I'll type it as CMD again, same procedure, no change at all. So now I'm going to execute this one. For executing Java program, we will tell Java C first, compilation and execution. Here, direct execution, you have to tell the language name. Language name is Python. And after telling the language name, the next steps that you are supposed to do happens to be tell the file name. Language name space file name. That's all. And if you press enter, so cannot be opened. I'm sorry, demo1.py is what I'm supposed to give. I have given the Java file name here. So I've given the name as demo1.py. And if I press enter, so I'll be getting the result as welcome to Python class day 1. For printing, can you see the difference? I mean to say that if I get back here, can you see how many lines of codes I have to write to print? It is doing printing activity only, not more than that. But still, the number of lines of codes, the amount of syntax that you need to remember, unknowingly or unknowingly, by hacking this, it was not accepted by many of the people. Why many of the people? You ask yourself. Once I teach Python, then you will never ever come back to Java. That I can guarantee you, because of this easiness, because of your understandability with respect to Python. When syntax is lesser and you don't want to remember the things, your mind will only focus on logical thinking. What logic I can apply it here? Why you have to sit and think on the syntax which is not required, which can be taken in the background? Correct? Yes or no? So I'll go up into this. Maybe one last thing. Maybe in this program, if I wanna do the changes, you heard about the swapping the two numbers, right? So swapping the two numbers is the famous program which is given in majority of the interview for the freshers, to swap two numbers using Java, and temporary variable is used there. So what people are gonna use there, I'll get here, and I'm gonna take a local variable where I have to type the data type. See this, how difficult it is. I'll tell it as int a is equal to 10, right? And you have to give the semicolon. And next also I will take one more value. So int b is equal to 20. Again semicolon. If you miss out, immediately you'll get the error. And I want to print them. So when you want to print them, the values, so I'm going to consider with respect to the SOP statement. And after considering the SOP statement, I'm going to cancel this. I would tell it as print A. And same thing, I would be copying it here. And after copying it, I would be pasting it back. So I would be telling it as B. So after telling this, I want to swap. For swapping, I will take a temporary variable, and that is also kind of an integer, and I will take it as int temp. Now let us swap. How to swap? As of now, A is filled, B is filled, and temporary variable is empty, correct? A is having 10, B is having 20, and temporary variable is free. When temporary variable is free, I will take up A, whatever there is in A, please give it to temp. This is what I'm gonna do it. You tell me now temporary variable is filled with 10, but A variable will be free. Do you agree with this? Next, what I will be doing, I'm gonna take up the B, in the B 20 is there, which I will give it up for A because A is free, right? Are you people getting my point, or should I want to go with the diagrammatical presentation? Because it would take more time and it is almost time up now. That is the reason I'm just orally explaining it. Is that fine, guys? Are you getting it? Everyone say yes
Yes,
once
sir.
in the chat box. Everyone? Yeah. So next what I'll be doing it here is, now what will happen, B is free. So when B is free, whatever I was there previously with respect to the temp, that I am gonna give it for the B. So indirectly the swapping happened. So using a third variable that is called as a temp, and I'm gonna copy paste it because I want to check this one, really this swapping has been happened or not, by checking A and B value. This much if you do, the swapping will happen. The basics of the basic question when you go to some of the interviews in the fresher level, but few people will struggle for this also to write up on the day of the interview. But anyways, those who already familiar with this kind of programs, well and good. Try to work on more and more such programs. Your logical thinking will improve. So this one, if in case if I want to execute, just come back here and let me go to the same command prompt. Wherever the Java program is there, I can easily re-execute. That is the reason I have not closed this. So I will execute it here. So demo.java. Yeah, so compilation is done. So after that, I want to execute this one. So first it is 10 and 20. After swapping, it is 20 and 10. Only this much is required for me. Okay, that if I try to sit and write it in Java, the complexity would increase in terms of the syntax. You have to take up the data type, you have to put a semicolon, and you have to take up one more variable, and that also you have to declare it. And finally, again, you have to reprint it. And when you're printing also, syntax is not as easier. So system.out.println. So it looks quite bigger. A smallest program would look bigger. So when you look it in terms of the syntax. So when I come back to Python, the same thing is what I'm supposed to do it here. So when I want to do the same thing here, I'm going to change few things. What is that? I'm going to have two values here. I will take it as A. I'll tell it as comma B. A and B is what I require. I will take it. And what I have to store, 10 and 20 is what I should be storing it here. I will store it as 10 and 20. Sir, what, sir? What you are writing, sir? Can we store it in this way, sir? A comma B is equal to 10 comma 20. 100% yes, this is possible in Python. How Python treat this code is 10 is taken care by A, 20 is taken care by B. And this concept we'll call it as packing and unpacking in Python, right? So once I store the value, no data type, you have to fix it here. Internally, it would be taken care. No semicolon, nothing is required, right? Next line, I'm gonna print this one. And while printing also, just I would say A comma B, no semicolon again, just a print and tell the variable name. And after this, what I should be doing is just reverse this, whatever the things that is there in A and B. So A comma B, whatever is there, you assign it back to B comma A, as simple as that. Sir, what is this, sir? Are you really crazy? I'm not crazy. The Python language itself is crazy. So it's saying that A is assigned to B, the first variable to the first variable, to the RHS to LHS, second variable to the second variable from RHS to LHS. Next, what I'll be doing is just copy it, print it back, right? I'll save this one. I'll get back to my Python program wherever it is present. Yes, it is there here. And here I'm going to execute this one. And I would set it as 10 and 20. When you swap it, 20, 10. In the terms of output, don't you think both are giving same? Whether you write it in Java or Python, we are all working to get the final output, getting the things done. When getting the things are done with the simplest format, so why you have to worry on the complex syntax? Clear with this? Everyone? Yes or no? Maybe you have already studied Python, you feel like, oh, all these things I already knew it. But if you're seeing this for the first time, maybe the history part, or the background things, the survey reports which I've shown, and the a smallest program that I'm saying it here, all my programs from now onwards in the Python class, it will be like this. Every bit of it I'll be explaining, right? So in that case, I would show again. So how complex the program to get the same output, how simplest the program to get the same output. Don't you think this is the reason why people are switching themselves from other languages to Python? It may be a fresher, it may be an experienced fellow. When something technology means making our work easier, when Python is making our work easier in terms of syntax, now we will only focus on the logical part. Clear for everyone? This is a sample which I have explained in the notepad. In coming up days from tomorrow onwards, I'll explain couple of programs in the IDLE. Later, I'll switch to an editor called as Sublime Text, which is one of my favorite editor, and all the Python programs, I'll be doing it in Sublime Text. And if you have a favor with PyCharm, you can go with it. No problem at all. Is that clear, guys? I think I've taken 5 to 6 minutes extra because I've started some 5 to 6 minutes late. So I think you got a clarity now, right? Yep. So any doubts for anyone? I'll close this for the time being. All these things, maybe notes I will share with you, and this program folders also I'll share with you every day after the class. Very simple one. I thought of finishing identifiers and reserved keywords today, but features anyways I'll just share it with you and you can go through with that, only theoretical part. Any other queries, guys? No. Yes. So thank you for being with me till end. I would take a screenshot of the people who are here, and everything will come from interest. That is what I can say. If you people are here till this time, that means you are interested. See, whether you're really gonna attend till the end or you'll be there for only first few days, that depends. But the point is, are you ready to go for that extra work? Are you ready to take up few challenges in the life? Can you really work upon that? That matters a lot. Any which ways, now let me stop this recording.